Yo, hey guys, what's up? How is everybody doing? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to No Huddle Fantasy Sports, and officially welcome to week 4 of the NFL season. Today is Thursday, October 1st, 2020, and we're talking Thursday night football here, a matchup between the Denver Broncos visiting the New York Jets. And of course, with that, we're talking Thursday night showdown, DFS here through DraftKings, the single game slate, captain mode, showdown slate, whatever you guys call it. That's exactly what we're diving into in this particular video. And I will admit, right off the bat, it's not looking like the greatest single game slate that we could have available. Both of these teams below average, both of these teams suffering substantial injuries on both sides of the ball. The over-under for this game is set at 40.5. At one point, it was below 40. I think 39 at one point. So generally speaking, not a lot of points are expected from Vegas, from the public, to be scored tonight between these two, again, below average teams. So let's make the most of it. Let's talk about some of the favorite plays. If you are interested in playing tonight, again, captain mode, showdown slate, whether you play here on DraftKings or FanDuel, I don't get too heavily invested into it. I don't put a ton of time or research into these plays. I just want to have fun. I want to get exposure to and enjoy Thursday night football, in particular a game between Denver and New York Jets. There's no real interest in this game other than betting and other than DFS. So hopefully that's the same for you guys. I don't recommend you get heavily invested into it simply because a lot of things can go wrong. You have to be almost perfect in your lineups. So save that for Sunday. Save that for the main slate where we've been absolutely killing it. But hey, who am I to tell you what to do here? Let's have fun. Let's talk NFL showdown slate on DraftKings for this Thursday night slate. As we navigate over to a particular contest here, I'll mention a couple of things. I did notice rumors are that Adam Gase is, of course, on the hot seat. If they lose again tonight at home versus Denver, he could be fired. So that's something interesting playing out. Outside of that, again, there's a lot of injuries. So from the perspective of the offenses of both of these teams, you see Le'Veon Bell still not suiting up. You see a lot of injuries, including Jamison Crowder to the wide receiving core of the Jets. I do believe Crowder is supposed to play, but again, going to play probably injured. He's going to give it a go, so that's something you want to monitor and make note of for DFS. On the other side of the ball, the Denver Broncos are down to their third or fourth quarterback. I'm not even sure at this point. They've had a lot of injuries at quarterback, a lot of bad play at quarterback. So they're switching things up there. They've had some injuries at wide receiver. Philip Lindsay is still out, still unlikely to play tonight at running back. So again, a lot of injuries there. All things you want to monitor for DFS, all things you want to consider, and how that plays out and how that affects some plays that you might be putting into flex spots or captain spots. And so let's start at the captain spot. I want to mention 3 particular guys. They're all going to be Denver sided on the ball. In general, the strategy for me tonight is to focus on Denver's side in terms of an offense. I think the Jets are just an absolute mess. There's not a lot of good talent over there. The talent that they do have is injured. So I do want to focus on Denver's side of the ball, and the matchup with the Jets is generally bad. Now, speaking right off the bat for captain, Melvin Gordon III, 16,500. Of course, he's the most expensive player. He's more expensive than the quarterbacks. He's going to be heavily owned. I don't care. I'm still interested in playing Gordon tonight. I think he is the most talented, best spot, best matchup player on this particular slate, and he should see a lot of opportunity and a lot of usage. That is kind of the main reason here. Now, the Jets in general are really bad versus the pass. I'm talking dead last in most statistical categories and grading systems versus the pass. Their coverage, their secondary is bad. But in general, they're a top 15 team versus the run. They're decent versus the run. So in general, you don't want to, if you want to attack them, if you had to choose, you want to attack them with wide receivers. Hopefully that's where most people go tonight. Hopefully Melvin Gordon becomes lower owned because of it. But again, I'm still interested in him as my number 1 captain tonight. Not particularly for the matchup. The matchup isn't awful. Again, a middle road team in the Jets versus the run, but more so just the opportunity and the usage. So Philip Lindsay is again going to be out tonight. That opens up a lot of carries and a lot of usage for Melvin Gordon. You can see he jumped to 19 carries in week 2 versus the Steelers. His targets went up from, what were they? His targets, if we could find them, his targets stayed the same, but they went up in week 3 versus Tampa Bay. Now, his overall output versus Tampa Bay was disappointing. It was bad, but Tampa Bay is a very, very good rush defending team. So hopefully that is an anomaly. He was playing at home, but again, he saw 6 targets, both or that particular number is double what he had seen in weeks 1 and 2. That's something I am attracted to here. I went back to the game log also. So if you didn't know, the quarterback tonight, at least projected for tonight, is not Driscoll, but it's Ripien. This particular player, Brett Ripien, there's not much on him. We don't know a whole lot about him, but I did go back to his one drive. He threw an interception. He didn't look great in week 3. Going back to that drive, he checked down to running backs, whether it was Freeman or Gordon, several times. So I think it was 3 or 4 of his 8 attempts, I think that was the number, went to a running back. So in general, that is typically what happens with inexperienced young quarterbacks. They check the ball down to tight ends. They check the ball down to running backs. They keep it very short and simple during games, again, when they're inexperienced. And I think that's what you're going to see again tonight. So I think the floor on Melvin Gordon is realistically 20 touches tonight. I know that's a much higher number than we saw in week 3, but I think he could see 5 receptions and 15 rushing attempts. I think that's a good number to expect from him. As a result, with little competition, I like Melvin Gordon tonight in the captain spot. But I mentioned the secondary of the Jets is where you want to attack. There are 2 guys in particular I think are interesting tonight. The first being Jerry Judy. Obviously, this kid is very talented. He's a younger player. I think he's a rookie, right? He was drafted high to play for this Denver Broncos team. They're missing Sutton, so this kid is kind of jammed in there as their number 1 right now. He saw a lot of targets, right? He saw 9 targets in his last game, 7 in the week prior, and in week 1 saw, again, 8. Good numbers there, relatively speaking, to the slate, to the wide receivers that we have available. I do like those numbers, so if there's any particular deep downfield threat that you want to get exposure to versus this really bad secondary of the Jets, I think it's Jerry Judy here, definitely. But the other guy I want to mention, again, this kind of plays to the quarterback play. So Ripien, whatever, I keep pronouncing his name, probably incorrect. It doesn't matter. Tim Patrick is a guy that he was also in the game log from week 3 where the kid came in, Ripien, the quarterback came in, played one drive. He mostly threw to running backs, but he also threw time and time again. I think 3 or 4 targets went to Tim Patrick. Makes sense, again, based upon he's inexperienced, he's young, probably doesn't have a great hold on the offense, doesn't want to attempt to throw the ball down the field. Tim Patrick plays underneath. So he had 4 targets, got a touchdown throughout the game. So hopefully these numbers go up a bit. I do like Tim Patrick as a riskier captain spot here for Denver. And so that's really it. The 3 captains, as I mentioned, Melvin Gordon based upon usage and opportunity. I like Jerry Judy, and I like Tim Patrick based upon that secondary of the Jets here. Talking flex players, I definitely will probably play Sam Darnold in every game, every lineup I have. Not in the captain spot, but in a flex spot. Yes, he's really bad. He has not done much. He's throwing multiple interceptions in games, but he's getting 30, 35 attempts. They move the ball at a decent pace if you actually look at the numbers. Really, it's just he's going to be one of the higher scoring players on the slate, even with 12 to 15 points. He's going to be one of the higher scoring players. I think you need to get exposure to that. I think they're going to trail at some point versus Denver, if not the whole game. Denver is really, really good versus the run. I think top 5, top 3 in terms of grading. They're average to below average versus the pass. So definitely want to get exposure to Sam Darnold here as probably my number 1 Jets player. We'll be playing a lot of him, only in flex though. Other players that I think are in play, I think Noah Fant is in play. Again, based upon the quarterback play and checkdowns and everything else I mentioned for those younger, inexperienced quarterbacks, Font could see a decent amount of targets, and he saw 10 in the last game, which does make sense. So hopefully that continues here. I think he's definitely in play at the captain spot. I mentioned Judy. Obviously, get exposure to those guys in the flex spots if they're not playing you for captain. And then coming back down, I think both the Denver Broncos defense and possibly the Jets defense is in play if you want to go there, and both kickers. Again, you can go any which way you want tonight. There's a lot of opportunity elsewhere, basically, because of how bad this lineup is, or how bad this slate is in particular, this single game slate. Other guys from the Jets that I think are viable in the flex spot, I am avoiding Jamison Crowder. I realize he's their best, most talented player at the wide receiver position. He had 13 targets in the one game he played, 7 receptions, had a really, really good game, has a really good connection with with Sam Darnold, but I'm just not interested because of the health of him. He's supposedly not 100%, even though he's going to try to play. I mean, the worst case scenario is he gets a 25, 30, 40% snap count tonight, which will absolutely kill your lineups. So try to play smart tonight, I guess, is the strategy. Try to pick your spots. You might have to grind it out with some higher-owned players, but in general, I think you can make better decisions by avoiding injured players. And so I will not be playing Crowder. I could get burned there, but hey, that's what happens on single-game slates. Frank Gore has gotten a lot of usage, right? He's gotten 15, 20-plus attempts on the ground, has no value through the receiving game. If you want to go there as a really, really risky play, I probably would just play him at captain, and then that's it. Just because if he's going to do it, he's going to do it, and he's going to help you in the captain spot, and you'd have a lot of leverage there. But the thing is, I mentioned, Denver Broncos in general have a very good run defense still. I think they're top 5 or 3rd overall in terms of grading. Lindsey's not playing. Coming back down here, the only other guy I wanted to mention, here he is. For the Jets, Chris Herndon, this guy, really, he should see more usage. They're really banged up at the wide receiver position. They don't have Le'Veon Bell coming out of the backfield for checkdowns. There's a lot of opportunity for some of these passes from Darnold to go to players like Herndon. They just haven't really. I will mention, it seems like he played better when Crowder was available, which was week 1. He had 7 targets. Maybe that helps him out. Caught 6 of those targets. Again, maybe Crowder opens it up a bit more for him, but I am interested in him. I think there's not very many ways you can go from a receiving standpoint for this team, for the Jets. I think Darnold will go to him more often than not. Hopefully we get 30 or 40 passing attempts. We just have not seen volume, so you see a lot of lower numbers on these players. But I will say, coming into the season, a lot of people, both from a coaching standpoint, from a Jets standpoint, and from a fantasy football community standpoint, we're really high on Herndon. We still have an opportunity here. Maybe he steps it up, but I am interested in him definitely at the flex position tonight for the New York Jets. So that's really it. As I mentioned, I'm going to be heavier on the Denver side of the offensive ball, or Denver side of the ball from their offense. In general, though, we'll get some exposure to some Jets players. If you want to talk quarterbacks for Denver, look, this is my deal. Go ahead. If you want to play Ripien, however you pronounce it. Sorry if I'm incorrectly pronouncing your favorite player's name, but I doubt very many people have him on the list. He could get benched in the second half. You could see anyone from Bortles, Driscoll, and him playing in this game. And so as a result, it's very risky to spend $10,000 on a player and not even get a full game out of them, particularly at the quarterback position. Again, trying to play smart here. Let's just see what happens. Now, I hope he plays the whole game. We'll see. But those are kind of my thoughts. So let's build a quick lineup here. I'll go with Gordon since he is my favorite. I mentioned getting Sam Darnold in most lineups. Let's come back down to Jerry Judy. Let's get our Tim Patrick in. I think you can do this all relatively easily. And we still have 5,000 left. We can come down to, I mentioned Chris Herndon, 5,400. If I could select him correctly. And then we have $4,700. So you can go a bunch of different ways. At $4,700, you can start getting exposure to kickers. You could play the Jets defense, which doesn't make sense in this particular build. Freeman, if you want to get a backup running back, has not gotten a ton of usage, but has come out of the backfield and gotten a couple catches. I'm not really interested in both him and Gordon in the same lineup. Ryan Griffin, I don't think he's played very much. No, he has not. That's about it. I think I will go with a kicker here. Since we're expecting Denver to win this, hopefully Denver on the road here scores some points. We'll go with McManus. So there's a quick build, taking a look at the lineups here, taking a look at some of the favorite players. Again, really, really bad matchup tonight. Really low-scoring game projected. Not the best single-game slate that we can have available. But we're going to have fun. We're going to play DFS here. Leave me some comments down below if I've missed any particular player that you think is in a great spot tonight. Anyone that we can get leverage with. I'd love to hear from you guys. And the last thing I'll quickly mention here, you can probably expect either tonight, if not tonight, then early tomorrow, the main slate DFS breakdown video here from No Huddle Fantasy Sports will be published on the channel, where we break down, like I mentioned, the main slate DFS action for Sunday's NFL games. Of course, we've done absolutely awesome over the last couple of weeks, particularly week 2, but week 3 was just as good. Had a real shot again, finishing in some of these bigger tournaments, which you can't ask for much more than that. Whether it's Cook, whether it's Eckler, whether it's Dak Prescott, we had all the numbers you needed. You just had to build the right lineups from those recommendations. So please make sure you check out the video when it gets released. I appreciate you all doing that. I appreciate you guys coming back to the video. Besides that, good luck tonight, and I will catch you in the next video.